Please like, subscribe, and be sure to click that bell button for regular and exciting indie film content and your chance to be the first to engage with the Liftoff Global Network of Film Festivals as we embark on launching the careers of the filmmakers of tomorrow.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we're talking to two filmmakers from the Los Angeles Liftoff Film Festival who picked up the Audience Choice Award. Welcome Kevin and welcome Max. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what your project was, what your role was, and yeah, we'll just go from there. Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit more about who you are? Yeah, Kevin. Hi, Kevin. I think are you watching this through the YouTube stream by any chance? No. Okay, Max, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll get back to Kevin.
Okay. Hi, I'm Max Decker. I'm the director of Retrograde, and based on Los Angeles, California, and here I am. My first director's roundtable with you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm so excited because I've got so many questions I want to ask you about your project as well. Let's see if Kevin is back. Kevin, can you hear us at all?
I think you lost the sound.
I think it's because I asked you to mute your YouTube, but you don't need to mute your desktop. Why does this happen when we go live? It's so typical.
It's so organic. This is the best stuff you can shoot.
Yeah. Kevin, take your headphones out if that helps. Can you hear at all? This is so weird because it was working absolutely fine a second ago. You've muted your microphone, so I can't hear you right this second.
Can you hear us now, Kev?
Wait, so you can hear us, but we can't hear you. It's because you've got your microphone muted. Could you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, I think you have to go into Google. Oh, wow.
Well, if you are watching this live and you have some questions for our filmmakers, I can see that there's a few people online watching us. So if you have any questions for our filmmakers, we will do our best to answer any questions that you may have for either Kevin or Max. Kevin, do you want to play around with the technology a little bit and I can start with Max instead? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, if you get it working, you can just interrupt us at any time. It's great. It would be
Just jump in, bro.
Just jump in, exactly. It's so strange that this has happened because you were working absolutely fine a second ago. I can see that your microphone is muted on Google Meets, which is just a button at the bottom of the Google. But if you're also got the YouTube stream up and that is muted, it might also cancel the sound on Google Meets.
Yeah.
I can hear you now. What was that all about? What was that all about? Okay, Kevin, as we got you back.
I don't know.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us what your project is, and then we will start with Losers of Eden and continue as we would have done.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Brio. I'm a writer in the Bay Area in California, and my project is Losers of Eden, which is a feature film that we shot last year over the summer.
Amazing.
And my goal in that project was I was the writer and director of it. I produced it and I also starred in it in a minor role.
Wait, so you were the director, producer, writer, and also an actor on this project?
Yes, I was.
Whoa, that is a lot of hats that you were wearing across the board. I want to hear more about that. But let me get your film rolling so we can get deeper into the conversation and our audience can watch a little bit of the film. So I'm just going to prep that up my side. There we go. So that has started and we can see the lovely luminous motel sign missing the E. So we are going. So you wrote, directed and produced this film and also had a minor role. Where did the inspiration of this project come around and when did you start to sit down and write this?
I started to write it in the summer of 2020. So it took a year between starting to write it and starting to shoot it. And the inspiration was I wanted to do something that I had never seen before in film, and that was to a movie that had multiple storylines, which other movies have done, but where each storyline is a different movie genre. So I have like the main storyline, which is drama, and then a kind of B and C storylines that are action and comedy. And there are movies that have a similar thing where they're interconnected storylines that come together at the end. So that's what this movie is one of those, but where each storyline is a different genre, which I think I had never seen done before. I don't know if it has been done. And I also wanted to make sure that it was done really more subtle. I don't want you to feel like you're watching 3 different movies. I want you to feel like you're watching one movie told by one, singular voice, but that just each of the storylines kind of feel a little bit different.
Absolutely. I want to just read a quote that I got from one of the jury members who watched your film at the initial stages. And I just want to share this information with you. So this is from Robin. He's been with us for over a year as one of our jury members, a fantastic filmmaker in his own right as well. And he put, "I absolutely loved Losers of Eden. It was so beautifully written, the direction was really tight, and I cared so much about everything that was happening. Great characters, hilarious dialogue, lots of twists and turns, a great mix of light and darkness, an award-worthy film, in my opinion." So yeah, that's what one of our jury members had to say about your film.
Nice. I love to
He's
hear
actually
that.
a really harsh judge. So it's even better when we see that. So really well done. And he made some amazing comments in there about the light and the darkness of the piece. I think that really came through. And the ambition that you did have about tying those 3 different storylines with 3 different genres really did pull off. So well done. Really well done on this project.
Yes, thank you.
One of the things I did want to talk about is your casting process, because something for me that stands out is the performances of the actors. So how did you find your actors?
Well, everybody in the cast, aside from 2 characters, I didn't know before. I met them all through Backstage, which is like a casting website.
Yeah, it's a great website.
And so the 2 characters that are like the 2 best friends who kind of start off the movie, I knew those guys before. They knew each other, and that's kind of why they have such great chemistry. I kind of wrote the roles for them, but all the other characters and the actors I just met online. And my process was to, go on Backstage and find some actors and have them send me auditions and then interview them like over Zoom, kind of like this. And there were, a lot of people that I talked to, and sometimes you dealing with somebody and you instantly get it off. And that was how I felt about a lot of people. And sometimes, you don't feel that way. And when you don't feel that way, you don't cast those people because while, yes, everybody in the movie is a really great actor, they're also really fun to hang out with. And we had 2 months of shooting where we all just were really great friends. We were hanging out all day. It was so much fun. Nobody ever got into any arguments or anything like that. Like, it was just a pleasant, nice set every single day. And people were like, talking about how fun it is to come to set. And we even had plenty of times people coming just to hang out on their day off when they weren't shooting anything with us.
Amazing.
It's because that's the kind of environment that I like to work in and to create.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a dream environment, especially for an actor. Having fun on set is what you need when it can be so stressful, when things are going wrong as well.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to talk about was your kind of rehearsal period with your actors. It's great that you get on and you have an instant connection with them, but did you sit down and do any types of rehearsals with your actors?
With the actors, no, not really. I gave them all, free reign to do any rehearsals with the other actors that they wanted. I think the only people who did actually any rehearsals were the 2 guys that were talking about earlier who played Jake and Frankie, because they're like best friends and they would hang out all the time and just run through their lines and come up with, improvisations, which I'm totally happy to let them do. But I never sat down and just did rehearsals with anybody other than just on the day of shooting, we'll run through the scene a few times.
Wow. Nice. Well, I think the chemistry between the actors is very, very good in that case. And that's why I wanted to be like, what was your trick to this? But if you let them feel their way through the piece, then that's amazing.
Yeah, I guess the trick is just good actors.
Yeah.
I got very lucky.
Trusting actors is definitely a key, especially if you're a director that hasn't necessarily rehearsed or worked with actors in a very specific way. We see a lot of filmmakers who are actors turned filmmakers, and you can always, well, not always, but a lot of the time tell in the performances of their main actors if they've had that mutual acting background. You see a lot of the tricks and trays that they use in order to get those performances, and I think it works really well a lot of the time. Great. So 3 different storylines, 3 different genres. That must mean quite a lot of different locations. And obviously this is a feature film, an independent feature film, or even a micro-budget feature film, or mini micro-budget feature film, however you want to word it. How did you get all of these locations?
Well, some of them I have like access to. I would say the main house that the bad guy Val lives in, that's actually the house that I live in, so that was easy. And then my character's apartment that he lives in with his girlfriend, that's my aunt's condo. Other than that, we did have to get permission to film in places like the motel. I happen to know a producer. He didn't produce the movie, but he helped me out because he was also looking for a similar location for a movie that he was doing. So he gave me the contact info for the motel owner, who was very excited and gave me a tour of the motel and let me pick out which room I wanted. Amazing. Which was really nice. We had a restaurant in there. It was another case of one of my actors, Keith, who plays my father.
Sorry, you broke up just ever so slightly there. So one of the actors' fathers?
Yeah, one of my actors, Keith, who played my dad, he has a friend who owns a restaurant and let us go in there and film before they open. So we were there at like 7 a.m, which was not so fun because we had also done a night shoot the night before where we finished at like 1 a.m. So we had like 5 hours of sleep. But we got it done. We only had like 3 or 4 hours to film that scene too, just because it was done before the restaurant opened, but we got it done. And then lots of the other little locations, just like if characters are sitting in a car, that was just on a street somewhere. But yeah, the locations was for sure the most difficult part, besides just scheduling, because when you're a producer and you have to schedule everything out, that's the worst part, because I had my list of actors and their availability on these days and what scenes can I shoot with these actors on these days. That was the hardest part about putting together a whole feature film. This is my first film.
I was speaking to a filmmaker yesterday on a very, very similar situation, and he was also saying that scheduling was the hardest part, and that was for a short film. So trying to do that over, did you say a 2-month period, is definitely something I would advise getting an assistant for, a producer or an AD to do for you, especially if you're directing on top of all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
That actually does lead me into my next question of what was your biggest learning curve of this project. What was the biggest thing that you had to overcome during the shoot, or just in general, whether that was during the shoot or post-production? What would you say was the biggest lesson that you learned?
Well, previously I've done a bunch of short films. I've done like 5 or 6 or something. And those I typically shoot on weekends, right? Because that's when people seem to be available. So we block out a weekend where we get everybody available. We shoot the film, we're done. Now suddenly I have 100 and something pages to shoot. I have 2 months to do it. And I have instead of 4 or 5 people in a cast, I have 11. And I have to get all their availabilities for the entire 2 months and figure out which scenes I can shoot on which days. And, this actor is, their availability ends here. We can't schedule them past that date. So it was just a lot of tricky work to find out. Filming, like, we can only film 15, it has to be today. Yeah, a lot of little things like that. That was the biggest learning curve for me. We also, like, we didn't have all the locations by the time we started shooting. There was even one role that wasn't finished casting by the time we started shooting. There's just so much that like wasn't ready, which is stressful.
Yeah,
because I'm used to having everything ready to go.
The unknown is super stressful, and not knowing necessarily how you'll figure it out, but somehow you always figure it out. It's the magic of filmmaking, I guess.
Yeah, before I started shooting, I had a friend who asked me, like, once you're done, you're gonna have to tell us how you did it. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, nobody knows what they're doing until they've done it. And I was like, that's a good quote. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, exactly. I think most people don't know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. They're just doing it. So yeah, I think taking the jump from shorts to features is very scary, and I admire anyone that actually goes out and does it and achieves such an amazing project as well that you have. How has it been doing on the festival circuit? How have you found after you finished post and you started submitting it? How's it been?
It's been going. We've gotten into like 2 film festivals, this one and one other one, and so far we've won awards in both of those festivals, which is really cool. This one, we got the audience choice, which is awesome. I'm so proud of that. And then the other film festival we did, which was called the Green Jack International Film Festival, which was in California. We actually got Best Actor for Matthew, who plays Tyler, and Best Supporting Actor for myself, which I was really surprised by because it's just me being critical of myself, but I thought I was like the worst actor in that whole movie. And I would have rather it gone to anyone else in my cast because I feel bad, like, oh, I put myself in the movie and then I win the award. But I didn't submit myself for that. They just chose it for me. So I'm proud. I'm not really going to complain. But I do think it would have been cool if anybody else in the cast got it.
I bet that was a huge surprise as well because your focus is on everything else but that. And then that happens.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
My performance was like the last thing I was worried about.
So I guess my next question is, just looking at the film in the corner of my eye, it is over here. The cinematography throughout is fantastic. So can we get a little bit technical and I can ask, what did you shoot on?
We shot on a Panasonic Lumix GH5.
Okay.
We shot it in 4K. And my cinematographer, his name is Lane Thomas. This guy can do everything. Not only did he shoot the movie, he edited it and he scored it. He's amazing. And beyond that, this was his first time shooting a movie like this. So what was really satisfying, or gratifying, I should say, was when I was putting this movie together and started to show off little bits of footage to people. They would say, oh my God, that looks so good. That looks like it could be on Netflix or Hulu or something. I'm like, yeah, like the cinematography is really good. And that's amazing because it's pretty much a first time cinematographer, but he really knows how to use the camera. He's had the camera for a while, but he's never like just done a whole project like this.
I think
so. Hats off.
I think one of the most important things, especially, I mean, it's the same for a first time filmmaker, whether that's a short film or a feature, having a DP that understands your vision and knows how to get around all of those blocks that are in your way will just make the shoot so much more pleasurable. When you come to the edit, you'll be so excited because of all the footage that you're seeing that it's just exactly what you could imagine. So I think having a DP on board like that is one of the keys to continuing in the film industry.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm just aware of the time, and we've got to speak to Max as well. So I'm just going to close your film down now, but I hope for those that watched it or watched the opening scenes that they enjoyed it as well. I just have a few more questions to ask before we do move on to Max. So I'm just going to click this off here and go back to the big screen. There we go. We can see each other a bit more. My final questions are, what is next for you? I guess we should start there. What is next for you?
What's next is I actually just finished shooting another short film that I made with the lead actor from this, Matthew. We kind of collaborated on a script. It's a really cool idea about a hitman who gets a new assignment that's his former best friend. And this was his idea. He wanted to basically make a video where we all have more footage for ourselves for our reels.
Perfect.
And so like he's got a lot of great performances in that. We're going to do some editing on it later today. Hopefully it should be done by the end of the year.
And that's going on the festival circuit as well?
It should be, yeah.
Perfect. Great. And then I guess the final, I wanted, no, two more questions. One,
Okay.
What is your favorite film? As we spoke about it before, but I didn't get the answer. What is your favorite film?
My favorite movie is Creed. It was from, I believe, 2015,
Nice.
and it's the spin-off with Michael B. Jordan.
Okay, cool. Good choice. And then the final question I have, what is your dream project? If you could do anything tomorrow, like the dream, what is it?
I want Lucasfilm to contact me and say, Kevin, we want you to direct our next Star Wars project.
Okay, that is very specific. So have you done any sci-fi short films?
I did kind of one, like my very first short film was kind of my take on a Black Mirror episode in 5 minutes. And it was kind of about the over-reliance on technology. It's called Rain Cloud. You can find it on my YouTube, but
Nice.
it was done like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think my ability has increased a lot. So I don't love that movie, but it's kind of cool.
Nice. Well, thank you. Finally, before we do move over to Max, do you have any questions for Kevin?
Yeah, what was your budget?
Well, so the budget was around $8,000 to $10,000, which I raised through a crowd fund.
Nice.
And the way I was able to shoot the feature film on that small of a budget, I hate to say this, but it's true, I didn't really pay the actors for their full performances. I definitely gave them like, gas money and of course free food, lots of free
Expenses,
food.
yeah.
We made like custom t-shirts and stuff. But a lot of it was just paying for like props and locations. Like we did have to rent the motel out. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you have to do if you're not paying your actors, you have to have a really good script that they want to, they're going to want to work on for free. And you have to, be like somebody that you want to work with. So I made sure when I interviewed these people, they were fully aware of that and kind of my process and that it's super collaborative. I want actors not to feel like they're making my movie for me, but that we're all working on our movie together. And anybody that you talk to, hopefully from this movie, will say that I was a super collaborative director and I'm open to all sorts of suggestions. If you read the script and watch the movie, you'll see that lots of it is a little bit different because people have their input. I'm totally open to it always.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, that's
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Max, we're going to jump over to you and talk a little bit more about your film. Why don't you reintroduce your film, your roles on the project, and I will get your film loaded up.
Yeah, I'm Max Decker, and I'm the director of the film. I have the luxury of wearing so many hats, like Kevin. But yeah, I've been, I've been acting for 20 years, and I have an advantage getting actors because I own Mad Acting Studio in Los Angeles.
Cool.
So yeah, so I know the agents, I know the managers, I know the casting directors, and all that stuff.
So I can just remove that whole question about that.
Yeah, you can. It's kind of like not fair. And we shot this during COVID, actually at the peak of COVID in 2020, when we were all kind of like locked in, and then we're slightly getting like, I want to say the business came back, but everybody was under like this really hard lockdown. So I decided I was like, well, I think I should shoot a film. Sounds like the perfect time to shoot a film. And I got my actors together because we're doing shows online, and I got a group of them, and I got this script because I get to work with like writers that come in that we workshop like writing for. And Madison Ballard's the writer of this script. Even though as a director, I kind of tore through his script and created something different. He's kind of still mad at me at that, but I had to do what I had to do for the story, because as we were shooting it, I realized that it didn't translate more. It translated more into like a genre of sci-fi thriller, like astrology. And it's not so heavily forced on you, kind of like if you watch Lucifer on ABC. This is more like very subtle, because everybody's always trying to like talk about Mercury retrograde, and it's like nobody really knows what Mercury retrograde is. And so I was like, this is a great way for me to kind of turn that into like a tentpole franchise or a series on TV without really, I explain it a little bit, or you'll see like it'll start at certain like angel numbers, and then there's these series of events that start to unfold. And so anyway, I got the actors from the studio. Like, that's Jennifer Seymour Price. She's a fantastic actress. She's never acted on film before. I was her actual, like, another thing that I did is like the actors that needed a break, because I have a lot of working actors. Instead of using the working actors, I gave the opportunity to the new actors.
Amazing.
Yeah, like Jennifer just killed it. That shot right there that I'm looking at, with the cutback to this other sequence, is something that was like inspired through some films that I'd watched. I was like, ooh, that's a nice turnaround with the mirror shot, and I'd go back to that lighting. I had the luxury of having a great producer too. There was 3 people in the total shoot. Like, I had a sound guy, a lighting guy, 2 lighting guys, sorry, I'm lying, and my DP. But my producer was phenomenal, Liana Montemayor. She was one of my students too, and she's like the main producer of Charlie Day's company. He stole her after this.
So just saying about what you just spoke about, my 3 notes are sound design, lighting, and cinematography. And
yeah, David.
So
David
there you
Rivera.
go. You had those key principal heads of departments essentially with you the whole time. Perfect.
For sure. Like, I'm not going to figure that out on my first thing. Well, because I've been doing it for a while and I just don't have the time for that. Like, I need to be working with the actors and making them feel safe and making them feel like, like this is a totally improvised shot right here. This wasn't in the script. And I just felt like because we were too much inside with the script, I was like, it needs to breathe. And I was like, this is what we're gonna have to do, Jen. And I just totally gave her this improvisation scenario to be on the phone. And I was following the script with Liana, and she's like, yeah, that makes sense if she were to like actually have this conversation with this attorney to tie it in later. And so, Jennifer was a champ. This is another totally improvised scene right here, where when I was watching it, we didn't have it in the script. And Elliot, who this is his first film, he crushed it, because he's a play actor. He's always been doing plays. And, there's like so much foundation there to like really just grab an actor like that. So this sequence, I was like, you're coming in. And I actually had to run off. So I had to just tell David, I was like, look, he's coming in. He's going to walk down the hall. I kind of want this long, dreary moment for him to experience his parents, because his parents, the mom was suffering from dementia. As soon as the retrograde hit, it really like turned up, and then she killed his dad, like the mother and father, right?
Yeah.
And Elliot is now coming over afterwards. And so I needed that nothing to be said to create that coldness. And he executed that. This is funny. This is Perry. Perry is he's a fantastic actor. He actually acts, he does act on YouTube. He's like in a children's show with dinosaurs.
Right.
Like,
I guess this was a nice change for him to do something a little bit more straight. But yeah.
I gotta say, I stole this though. I stole this shot from another movie. I'm not gonna say what. But when we go to that shot right there, I was like, we need kind of like this clean vibe, this aesthetic. So the contrast, and that Perry also made that little thing where it says psycho murder, and that's her client. Her client's like the psycho killer, and she's the psychiatrist, and she's like falling apart because they're like, didn't you like pick this up? And she's like, how could I? COVID, there's a pandemic happening. There's gonna be like all this like authoritarianism that's happening, and she's like having a meltdown, and she's like trying to be a good therapist. And so Perry added that on the day of, and she's like, oh my God, like she was really surprised with that moment. Yeah, so going back to kind of like the genre of the film to sci-fi and thriller, you know, I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead, and the whole thing with Walking Dead is they don't really explain where they become a zombie, and it's like the hit show. It's like the #1 hit show like of all time,
For
right?
years, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, if these guys can get away with it, I can totally get away with it. And with going back to Retrograde, because I really want it to be a series, because as I was shooting it as a movie, like there would be a potential of a franchise tentpole there. But it's so much easier now to like continuously shoot a 45-minute movie and think of it that way, and you do it over the course of like 10 seasons. And since all the studios are looking for thrillers and sci-fi, like that's the big thing, like Netflix is
Yeah,
looking.
so do you know the platform Dusk on YouTube?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's a phenomenal platform, and I would recommend trying to get your film on there. They are maybe a little bit more hardcore sci-fi than what you have here,
Yeah.
but if you get onto their platform, you'll be looking at hundreds of thousands of views, if not in the millions, and that is your target audience. You can take those numbers and put that onto your next project, or if you did want to develop this into a series, you have your kind of proof of concept through this short film. Plus then, oh, it's also on this platform, it's had 1 million views. I definitely think you should invest in me, or like it's definitely a really great way to get a producer, get investment, get funding to do whatever it is that you want to do. Whether it's just packaging it up and selling it to Netflix, whatever it is.
It's definitely like, I'm going to continue to shoot on Retrograde, like after, and I'm going to use like what I've been shooting. Like that's why I've been very mindful of having like the clean look and using David again. Like David's a fantastic, going back to David Rivera, Will Spencer, Jacob Maya, who did the lighting. David was the DP. But they were phenomenal to use, you know, 3 people to set up my shots, you know what I mean? And give me exactly what I wanted. But going like back to the story of it, like after this sequence, I introduced a detective to try to figure out and start putting together how this fell apart during the Retrograde, because, you know, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, Elliot dies the exact same way that the father did around like the same time even. And so they're kind of like trying to wrap their brain around that. So I bring in this like kind of like off detective that starts to put it together. But as he puts it together during a retrograde. And so his life starts to fall apart exactly in that type of form, and people start to die in front of him. And so I start to introduce what starts to really happen in retrogrades, which is like karma. Like your karma starts being judged by the planets, and you start to actually your life starts to like either emulate somebody else's, or yours falls apart during that.
Nice.
And then this is Dennis Fasick. He's funny. He's a funny actor. He also didn't have, he's never been on TV or film yet. This was his first film. And his first is going right into a camera, because, you know, I go onto the Zooms. I was like, well, it's COVID. This is new. Like, you know, like how we're engaging now. I was like, so it totally breaks this fourth wall. And, you know, it's something that was so interesting. He's like, is it good? He goes, is it gonna suck? And I go, no, Dennis, it's not gonna suck. It's gonna be, I think we're gonna do well. But it's so nice to like have a lot of them have like their first opportunity with me, like on film. And then like we win audience award, which was fantastic. I'm going in a little different. We won, we submitted to a couple other places, which is like Sundance and Slime Dance. Lift, because you guys are affiliated with Pinewood, and I saw that you guys did the screenings at Raleigh. You just had like a very prestigious, like, you know, because there's like a million film festivals.
There
right?
are a million film festivals. You're correct. Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and lie. They're all on Film Freeway. Yeah. You can see them all there. But yeah.
Yeah, no, but you guys do a really good job of promoting, and you're very professional, and you like connect yourself with like very big studios, and like the mentors that I have in film. Which I got to give a shout out, which like my manager Liz Fuller, and like Tom DeSanto, who's like, he's the one that brought X-Men to like the X-Men franchise.
Oh wow, yeah.
I have like some really cool mentors that I can always check in with, and they're always like, dude, the first thing you do is you shoot something of quality. You have an idea where it's going. You get like people to do like their job, and then from there, you know, you start to get people behind you, and create like what you're seeing. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect that I've got some really cool mentors.
I think it's very clever what you're doing with if you are going to develop this into a pilot or episodic content, however that may look. It is definitely what the market is demanding right now, and to have visuals alongside that will only go in your favor. So I think you're in a good place to get conversation started.
It's funny because like I have exactly what like Hulu, Netflix, like I have the exact things what they're looking for to like actually buy, and I have all the numbers of like who to call and stuff. It's just like I can't be that person to pitch myself. It's so funny. Like I need to be like have like somebody that's behind me that does that.
That's called a producer. Yeah,
I'm down. You know, the budget on Retrograde, I got to give a shout out to my producer, Mike Green and Natalie. They gave me $20K to shoot like this film.
Wow.
And I turned it, and I feel bad because, you know, I had to turn it into a series just because it didn't translate the way I wanted to from the script that Madison wrote. And that's not a knock to Madison. It just wasn't a film script. And because I'm so used to TV, like, you know, I've done TV like my whole life, practically. I understand the pacing and timing to that much better. And so when I turned it into a series, it totally translated into exactly what I wanted and what I saw and where it was going into this bigger picture, like of a series. So it's so funny how you go into one thing and it kind of like becomes like film like becomes its own thing. Like it's almost like having a child, and the child grows up to be like, well, like, oh, I didn't think you would be a doctor.
Are you attending AFM this year? I think it's either just happened or is happening. Yeah, the American Film Market.
American Film Market. That was kind of an idea that I was thinking about. You know, it's like $6,000 to $7,000 a pass or something like that, right?
It is expensive, but you can get day passes.
Yeah, no, I mean that was an idea that I was thinking of, and especially how like I can pitch the franchise. And it's so funny because Adam Simkowitz is a writer, a playwright that I really love. And I'm directing his play Clown Bar in LA right now at the Hudson Theater, if you guys want to go see it. And Clown Bar 1, and I'm going to get to do Clown Bar 2, which is about gangster clowns. It's Moulin Rouge meets Joker. It's fantastic. You know, come watch
Sounds
it.
exotic.
You're invited. Kevin, you're invited. Natalie, you're invited.
I'll just get on the plane. It's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but I have the writer now, Adam, who's also trying to get on TV, and I think it would be a nice transition from him to like, I'm pitching you now, Adam, you should do this. I didn't bring it up to him when I saw him, but I'm bringing it up now. But I think I have the writer to like bring me this dark type of sci-fi genre that we can kind of like pull this off continuously. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think American Film Market, if I go in there, I'd have to have the right script behind me, so I'm not like lying to like investors. And then, you know, what I have is a good idea of where we'd go with it. I wouldn't want to like throw it in your face because I'm like such a big geek when it comes to Twilight Zone and like those type of series. And I think I kind of fit there. Not Black Mirror. I think Black Mirror is a little bit like outlandish. I think it's like you know, it's a little extra. And I think what I would really like the opportunity to do like with this series once it does go is like give new actors an opportunity and kill off, like, this sounds really terrible, but like kill off a lot of people as they come on. So I mean, because that's real, right? Like that's real, and we're so used to like seeing somebody, and it's like it'd be nice to have like a series regular just die, you know, in the middle of a season. Nice. It's just like more Game of Thrones, you know what I mean?
Perfect. Well, you spoke about a lot of the things that I wanted to mention, which is great. The one thing we haven't talked about is we talked about having a sound person on set, but I think the sound design throughout the short is very well done as well.
Yeah, Jacob Maya, who's one of my actors, Jacob and Will have a fantastic production company. They really did me a solid. You were talking about Star Wars. They did this fan film that's doing like really well right now out there on YouTube. I was so lucky that they took those jobs to kind of help me out and back me up like that. But I mean, young kids, but like definitely the future of filmmaking. Yeah. So I got lucky. I wasn't trying to figure anything out. I was like, I'm going to be too busy working with the actors and kind of like keeping them open to getting off the script. And it's not even like improvising scenes, because I was cool with like them sticking to the script. It's just more like when you don't, because like when I'm shooting, I'm not thinking just about this scene, I'm thinking about like the next 2-3 scenes to put it together. And I've just learned that sometimes we don't have that. And so when I have the location, like with these locations, again, I got really lucky with the locations. Like that's the producer's house. And then we also used Mike's house, which was the other producer's house. I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, we don't have that scene. Let's kind of, and we have this actor now. So do you guys mind doing this for me real quick? And so since they're used to like improvising with me, like with just like in class and stuff. So it's like, we didn't even need like rehearsals and stuff. They're like, yeah, cool. What are the bullet points? And so it's just like so much easier when you're working with actors that work together all the time.
Yeah, that's very true. And I guess rounding up then, my final questions for you would be very similar to how we ended with Kevin. What's your favorite film?
You know, we were talking about that, films and stuff like that when we're starting. You know, I got to go back. I forgot about that, but Tom DeSanto is like my mentor. So I've got to give it up to X-Men, because I grew up on like X-Men 2 with comic books.
Nice.
And he's the guy that took X-Men to the studios, and people were like, you're crazy, and got it made. And he also was the guy that got behind Hugh Jackman to get him the job. So as
Wolverine.
You know,
is it
Wolverine? Like Wolverine,
yeah.
So Tom is legend. And then he's also the guy that said, hey, we're going to do Transformers. And people are like, you're nuts. And he got Anthony Hopkins to do one of them. Like, you know what I mean? So I got to give it up to Tom and X-Men, and say like that's kind of like also a very pivotal moment in my life, watching that happen, giving that to him. And you know, off brand, I'd have to say with Aladdin, because what we talked about earlier.
We talked about earlier, yeah.
Yeah, because when I found out that, you know, people were talking about how Aladdin was a post-apocalyptic film, you know, because the genie's like, this was 10,000 years ago. He explains it when he, you know, because he does Viva Las Vegas and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, this is I was in the bottle for 10,000 years. So when they said it to me like that, I was like, you know, I think Aladdin's like one of the coolest films now.
I mean, if we go back to the original Aladdin, that's a great film as well, the Disney cartoon. Absolutely.
Yeah, the cartoon. The cartoon. I'm talking about the cartoon.
Oh, you are? Oh, good. I thought you were talking about the
cartoon.
remake.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that other one. I'm talking about the cartoon.
Okay, good. We're on the same page. Good. It's fantastic film. And then I guess, as it's a nice question, what would be your ultimate dream project?
I'm already doing it. Like
Great.
I get to like direct plays and stuff, and I'm really big on foundation like that. So directing Clown Bar and having Adam Simkowitz come watch it, and then having like all my you know, like my mentors come and watch it, and like, you know, I think that's actually really cool. I think live performances is kind of like where I get like my critical thinking, right? And then I'm really specific with beats and stuff like that. So for me, I'm already doing it. I think, you know, as Retrograde kind of unfolds and does its own thing, it'll happen when it happens. And then, you know, whatever movie comes along, it's just, you know, again, it's just kind of like making sure that I'm the right fit for it, you know, because I'm not good for everything. And that's one thing I've learned, like doing this for 20 years. It's like, yeah, I'd love to do Fight Club, but just not right for it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, and you're just kind of like, you know, you just take it as it goes as you're working on the stuff. Like Clown Bar, I'd love to do Clown Bar as a movie. I think that'd be a big thing. And then there's another film that, you know, a writer I'm talking to called Dig. We're kind of talking about it, but I think I'd like to see what happens with Retrograde and really kind of having that come into series, because that's showrunner money. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Well, thank you so much. And Kevin, do you have any questions for Max?
Yeah, I do actually. I was curious if those scenes that were like the Zoom therapy sessions, if your actors were actually acting opposite each other, or if they weren't, if they were acting opposite anybody at all, or if they were just.
That's a great question. Sometimes is your answer. Sometimes. I mean, it was so interesting because like it had never kind of been, we're still kind of like, again, we're shooting during COVID, And like it was starting, like I was used to the Zoom because that's what we were doing for class, like 5 days a week. And so I was used to the Zoom. So the actors were used to acting in the Zoom too. And so when I was like even telling the actors, like, yeah, we're gonna do a film, and then some of the scenes, it's gonna be easier because you're just talking to the camera. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm like, we're gonna talk into the camera like Zoom.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, cool. So, and then I was like, sometimes, the actor, because of scheduling, is not gonna be there. So we'd have Liana read, and since Liana's a fantastic producer and she's also a fantastic actress, so it was really easy to get some of those performances. Like Julie Del Phillips turned in a great performance with Elliot Bush, but sometimes they weren't shooting together, and sometimes they were, but those guys really killed it. And sometimes Liana stepped in and she killed it. I mean, again, she's like working for Charlie Day. Congratulations, Charlie. Not bitter at all. No, I'm kidding. She knows I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, they had like really good people to bounce off of that were very present and very like seasoned. So it was like one of those things, again, like we didn't have to worry about that. They were just like already prepared. So now it was just like, okay, if Liana steps in for Julie or Julie steps in for Liana, or you know what I mean? It wasn't like that big of a deal.
Nice. Any other questions?
But that was it. That was my question.
Nice. Well, thank you both for joining, and thank you to those who have been watching on the YouTube channel live. If you do have any questions for our filmmakers after the stream, as we're coming to an end, do put them in the comments below and we will check back and answer any questions that you may have. Again, thank you both for joining. You can stay on the line. I'm just going to end the stream this side. But yeah, thank you again. Bye-bye.